And I just want to welcome you guys. I am Theda Blackwood. I'm a star executive director here at Lime Life, and I am so thrilled to have Dawn Speaks with us today as our guest for this amazing beauty show. Dawn, I'm going to just let you introduce yourself. You have so much more history here. We've only been here for not even a year yet.
I know, it's so
And
exciting.
if you want to pin Dawn so that you can see her large and in charge here, let's see, you can see her the full screen. We're good.
Excellent. Hi, everybody.
Hey, Dawn. How's
So
it
good to
going?
see folks. I'm like, some of y'all feel like I see like every day now. It's like, didn't I see you yesterday? Didn't I see you? Won't I see you tomorrow? Jenny, I'll see you again tomorrow. I'm like, where are people not? Is really right what there is to say. So for those of you who don't know me, or just connecting for the first time, or you're just seeing me up close and personal, my name is Dawn Speaks. I am the director of leadership and performance here at Lime Life. I've been here just about 5.5 years now. Yeah, 5.5. I think about it. And I've had a lot of not bumps, but like movement. I was our associate empowerment officer when I first came on board, and then the empowerment officer, and then we moved to regional director or something. I don't know, whatever, the U.S. North and Canada. And now I get to just be director of our leadership and performance, which is all across North America, US and Canada. So I'm thrilled to be here with y'all. When Theda asked me, if I would come and inside of something that was getting really powerfully created by the team, I was like, of course. So here I am. And I think, Theda, what would work is I know there are like kind of like two aspects to tonight, in some respects, right? One is obviously to empower people, but the other piece is I think make sure I'm not confusing things, okay? Like because I've been known to collapse things like, is this the call about X? And you'd be like, no, Dawn, it's not that. And also the aspect of diversity.
Yep. We want to talk about beauty and inclusiveness for all for every woman. Beauty is just all inclusive.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
you're just such a great ambassador for us. And we just love,
I love being an ambassador.
yeah.
Well, let's start with how many of you have were at this year's Palooza? Right. Okay. Okay. And then some of you are brand spanking new, right? If you're brand spanking new, you haven't been to Palooza yet, raise your hand just so I can see, wave at me or something like that. Okay. Yep. I see. Yep. And yep. Sue. Okay. Good. I see folks. Okay. So, let me backtrack a little bit. So when I came on board here to Lime Life 5.5 years ago, um, um, one of the things that I had said to Gary Montalvo, who was then my direct report, who I reported directly to, was, I came on board and he's like, so kind of like, what do you want to do? I was like, well, I want to have some kind of impact in the beauty industry among women of color. He's like, okay, definitely we could do that. And so, for the first few months I was here, it all sounded good. Here I am. I'm this lone Black woman, Black girl from the Bronx, New York. And I'm like, I'm waiting for the shoe to drop, because here I am at a company run by two white women. And I'm like, let's find out when really this pseudo diversity is going to fall apart. But it never did, even though I kept waiting for the shoe to drop. But Michelle Gay, who is our founder, but no longer one of our CEOs, she's retired, and Madison Malardi were like, everything I would ask for, they'd be like, we back your play. They would just back the play. Whatever you want to do, okay, we back it. Right. And so that's how it kind of all began. There were already things going on here at Lime Life prior to my arrival. And it really was, but I was looking for what level of cohesiveness or growth we could bring together. And so there were two individual Facebook groups, one called Lime Life in Color, one called Lime Life of Color. And we were like, let's bring them together. And what we got was On the Rise. So now we have On the Rise, which, you know, for the first year or so, I was just kind of like running it myself, doing all the things. And then I got smart about, you know, who should actually support in running this. And we created a think tank advisory. And the think tank advisory is comprised of 12 beauty guides, some of them having been here almost from the beginning here at Lime, well, some from the beginning, like they're one of the first 100 beauty guides, and some younger than that, but all of them with a commitment and different variations about why, but they're the founding members of the Think Tank Advisory, of which Jenny Figueroa is one. And they are responsible for spearheading and guiding the direction for women of color here at Lime Life. And so they take their job pretty doggone seriously. Jenny now is one of the really foundational components of, you know, our website being in Spanish. And she has been working tirelessly at that, making sure that there could be a space for our Spanish-speaking beauty guides to come and experience being welcomed. But not just experience being welcome, experience being heard and thought of and acknowledged. And so that's a big aspect of what On the Rise is about. So we have, you know, different cultures of women who participate: Latina, African-American, Pacific, Asian Islander, Native American, you name it, we got the gambit covered, right? But it's not just to cover women of, you know, those backgrounds. It's also to cover women of different ages and to cover, you know, differently abled. So part of when we talk about diversity, it's like you're differently abled. If you're not part of the, you know, kind of typical when we talk about the beauty industry, you know, like I'm a plus size girl and I'm so proud of it. But, you know, you don't always see people like me, right? You don't see women over 50 or 60, you know, and all the spaces. So that's what On the Rise is about. But having said that, you know, is everybody here a beauty guide? So all beauty guys, just want to check in.
It may be, I don't know who is or who isn't, but we will be recording this and sending this out. So this is going to get seen by a lot of people.
Okay, great. So I think what's appropriate is for me to, I want to, you know, like for anybody who's watching and you're kind of like, why should I come to Lime Life? Or when you share this with the people you've been wanting to share this with, like, you know, sometimes, you know, one of the things I know I've been at work on along with the advisory is when people look in this direction, do they see a reflection of themselves? Which is always the biggest thing, like that somebody, when they look in that direction, they don't just see one standard of beauty, they see many standards of beauty, right? And so we wanted it to be that when they looked in that direction. So part of what I wanted to share with y'all, you know, really is a little presentation of sorts that I had put together some time ago that really kind of reflects where Lime Life has gone, like from where we started to where we are now, in the direction that you all have a major part in playing in how we go, okay? And so I'll begin there.
I gave you co-host privileges.
You sure did. Awesome. Let me start here. Let me do that. Let me do share slides and from the start. Here we go. Can everybody see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So one of the things that I have really, when I first came on board, was like, okay, we used to actually use models quite a bit when I first came on board. We had models that whatever they hired, all that kind of thing, which was probably industry status quo, right? And then at some point it became like, that's not a reflection of like the totality of beauty guides. And when we talk about diversity and, all of that. And so I had gone to our head of design and I was like, one of the things the beauty guys are saying to me is that, we don't have enough black and brown models. And she'd be like, yeah, of course we do. What are you talking about? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, well, let's see. Right. So I had her give me, like at the time we used to make like a catalog. Right. So, they would put together this brochure of sorts and you could access it. And so I had her start me back I came on board in 2018. So I said, start me back from whenever y'all first started doing that. So she did. But before I show you that, I just want to kind of share kind of like why we're in this journey called diversity, why we're in this journey called a place for everybody, where no one's left out, where everybody belongs. Part of it is because I'm always at work on combat, but maybe like, addressing, right, what I consider gaps. So like, when I looked at these numbers, and these were some of the things I shared during our Palooza, which is why I was asking people who attended Palooza. It's like 17% of all women feel like their racial beauty is accepted by society. And while the numbers are that, that number is kind of eye-opening, like what, 70% of all women feel like, their racial beauty is accepted? That's crazy. That's a small number. There's this need for more inclusivity, more representation in the beauty aesthetic, which is where, myself and folks like Jenny and even folks like yourself are going at work on. Like, how can we have people experience, I belong here, I feel like there's a place for me here? And how do I, which is one of the points I'll address tonight, is how do I make sure that I'm having the kind of conversations with a woman of color that would have her be like, receive it and say yes and want to come on board? Well, before I talk about that, let me just address a couple more things, right? Why we're this focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. When we talk about it, a lot of people, when you look at the beauty industry, those standards that are set are already, you could say racist, or you could say they're, what's the word? Ageist, right? Like, you got to be 20 and you got to look 20 and you got to, there's no room to look any other age except 20, right? And, really we're standing in, anybody could be beautiful. And beauty it's not just in the eye of the beholder. Beauty exists everywhere if you're committed to endorsing it and looking at it. So where I get to go to work is to be like, this is what we're doing here at Lime Life, okay? But before I can tell you what we're doing, this is what we did. So in 2015, when we first kind of introduced, we were doing models and our makeup primer and showcasing that, I went to our design department. I said, give me everything you got that shows me. Well, after she looked and saw it, she was like, Dawn, we do not have enough diversity. But she was sure up until then that we had. But when I talk about showing women of color, obviously in this one, you see one woman of color, but then her features are not, what I would consider my features. When I look in that direction, I could see she's a woman of color, but she's very fair in complexion and, comparable to the other women on the page. That was 2015. Then in 2016, we said, well, let's get smart. So then we went, you started getting some more, it looks a little like the shade ranges look a little different, but still all very young, obviously women in their 20s, that kind of thing. Then we beefed it up maybe a little bit more in 2017. We started including, women of Asian descent, and, the color scheme looks a little different. Then we, 2018, okay, well, wait a minute, we got somebody in there with some gray hair, looking a little older, darker complexions, right? This is also the year, I might add, the year that we introduced Danessa Myricks. So the year that we introduced Danessa Myricks, who if you don't know, she's a professional celebrity makeup artist, has her own, makeup line. She has been one of our educators here at Lime Life almost since the beginning inside of her relationship with the Millardi family. And we designed a line, a lot of, in fact, the majority of the line that she designed is still in our line, so which is atypical of how that works. Generally, you have a contributor or a collaborator come in and offer a line, do a line, but those colors and that run goes out of existence. We kept all of that. We kept all of the foundation colors, the blushes, the eyeshadows, the lipsticks. We kept probably 95% of the line that she created for Lime Life as part of our permanent line fixture. And that was inside of a conversation of diversity. Like you couldn't take that away. And Michelle and Madison immediately aligned with that. So in 2018, we really kind of changed the game in terms of our pigment of colors, what we offer, deeper shades, deeper complexions, and the high kind of quality of our product, which was always there. But then we made it possible to, we increased our color shade significantly. So by the time we got to 2018, we had included like 6 more shades. And at the time, when you talk about shade ranges, and I'm sure many of you have heard these conversations, you have companies now who offer 100 shade ranges and 50 or more. That's not the testament to diversity. You could have 100 shades, but so the freak what? Not if 90 of them are shade ranges that don't really include darker toned complexions, right? So having 100 shades means nothing. What matters is the amount of diversity of shade range that people can see. So one of the things I spoke to at Palooza was, y'all should be proud to be able to share that Lime Life has a more than 70% shade range that attributes itself to medium to darker skin tones. 70%, which is significant that's higher than some of the most major multi-billion-dollar cosmetic brands in the world, that we have that level of inclusivity of range. And so the increase in the color line so we have 36 foundation shades, but the range of what it includes is significantly higher than 36. So if you go to the color matching quiz, the number of shades that it matches with, or that it could match with, blended or not, is more like 70. So I say that because as you're interacting with women of color and they be like, you don't got my shade, I'd be like, oh, not only do I have your shade, I've got a range of shades that, whether standalone or blended, is your color. Because there is no such thing, by the way, as one color that you put on. Winter is one, summer is one, right? But you'll find it here. So then, we got a little extra in 2019. So in 2019, we started to not only, obviously, you can see the ranges of complexions across the page that really does speak to diversity. But then the other thing we started to do was include a look at our beauty guides. I mean, you're on the ground, you are the ones in those conversations. So it only made sense to kind of feature who you are and what you do. So that became kind of like a starting point in our kind of campaign. of diversity to really feature the different kinds of beauty guides. So if you know Felicia, that Felicia is the first woman of color or first African-American executive at Lime Life, right? And then Jules, you can't go anywhere without hearing the name Jules Mabin. Didn't start out for Jules like that. What Jules was committed to was being like, I'm somebody who, yes, I'm cancer free. She shares her story very candidly about, the double mastectomy and all of the stuff that she had to deal with. She came to Lime Life inside of a kind of commitment to, in her health and well-being. And this was the start. And then she grew into who she is. But we started sharing beauty guide stories as a real access point to shining light on the diversity of people here. And then this became some of our campaign where we could just feature different women of color, different, backgrounds, ethnic origins. And like I said, it all began with that Danessa Myricks and Lime Life collaboration to create the Dynamic collection, which, was introduced in 2018. And then in 2019, we expanded it. And actually at the time we expanded our range to 22, and we've added 14 other shades since that time. So, and more shades are coming. So more is coming. But if you look to the left, this is what that collection looks like. And pretty much most of the collection stayed, like I said, 90% of it. I think the few things we got which were still a pain point for many people, was, it's a significant collection that we kept. So then what do I want to say? So part of the diversity, and by the way, y'all, I'm just noticing, obviously, things in the chat. Feel free to ask questions. And I'll be glad to answer anything. So part of that work that we've done on the Rise, which really is I'd say the cornerstone for women of color to be trained, developed, to, be listened to be heard, and all of that, has allowed for a lot of really great stuff. One of those is we had our, during our first year of On the Rise, we did like a number of events. So this kind of is like this is obviously online, but one of the things that's coming up, we have a series of events that are thrown specifically by On the Rise, and it's to cultivate beauty guide access for women of color, for them to see our company, to see what we're about, to see what could be available and possible for them. And so one of the things that On the Rise is responsible for is showcasing who we are as a company, all the initiatives or things we support. So everything from Black History Month to, Hispanic Heritage Month, to the acknowledgement of Asian and Pacific Islanders. We have our On the Rise lookbook. It's the first ever lookbook created for women of color. It's never been done before. We did it here at Lime Life. Volume 2 is coming out next year, which will essentially be really like a coffee table book where we celebrate different beauty guides and really just showcase what we're doing here at Lime Life. And then not obviously, but then what's become really like the hallmark of, if you look at kind of like the way we operate around here, it's very beauty guide driven. It's very beauty guide focused. It's like, we want to hear from you. We want you to talk. We want you to be featured. In fact, several of the women on here today will be featured this week on the corporate page, showcasing the holiday collection, showcasing, recipes during the holidays, really. And the whole point is on the corporate page, where we have the most amount of ability to interact with the forward-facing public. What we want them to see is we're a company who is not your typical company. We're not your kind of regular, I don't want to say badly about any company, so I'm not going to say names, but we're not that company that's just going to feature that kind of stamped look of this person, you know, this height, this weight, this look, this complexion, this hairstyle. No, we're going to feature the range of what beautiful is and hear from all those people. And so, you know, what that looks like is you might hear from, you know, our beauty guides, you know, tell their story or share their experiences. But more importantly, the biggest thing is it really is about cultivating the mission here at Lime Life, right? Cultivating a mission called what? Like everyone's included. You belong here. Find yourself here. We, you know, like we're a beauty community. We're not a beauty, you know, like entourage, you know, we don't operate in cliques. It really is like a radical collaboration. And so, what I will say is, you know, one of the things that we've taken on is we have geo-targeted events. And the geo-targeted events, why I'm talking about women of color, what I'm really talking about is the opportunity for all of us to impact and make a difference. So one of the things I spoke to at Palooza is, you might be saying to yourself, but how can I have the kind of conversation with the woman of color that would have her be a yes? So tonight, I'm going to give you kind of like the script, right? So to speak. And this is, when I say script, it's not like it's like, yes, you say this thing and all works out, but it's a place to start. The first place to start might be, listen, I don't know if you would even be remotely interested in this, but I'm out to impact diversity at the makeup and skincare company I belong to. I'd love a conversation with you if you'd be open to it. That's one. Two, it might look like, I don't know if you've ever thought about this. I don't know if you're even remotely interested in makeup and skincare, but I'd love to build something with you. And yes, I know we don't know each other well or hardly at all, but would you be open to taking that on with me, to impacting the beauty community? I'm giving you those two, and there's more, but here's what I want to say about why I gave you those two, because they're the most straight you can be with somebody. And even the third one, which is, I don't know everything there is to know about diversity. In fact, I'm still on the path to learning. But if you'd be open to a conversation with me, I'd love to talk about how we can grow a team that impacts women of color across, you know, any boundary. My point in saying all of that is you're talking about being the most open and straight. And I'm telling you, when you are that open and straight, people are willing to be in a conversation with you. So you might be like, I know this woman of color who works at this store, or I've seen her, I've said hi. That's the person you go to. That's the person you have a conversation with. And you got to be willing to put your butt on the line for it, to be like, I'm in this game called expanding diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Lest we forget that word. I use the word belonging intentionally because belonging is not about skin color. It's not about seeing more Black people or more, you know, Latinas or more Asian or Pacific Islanders. It's about the experience one has when they come on board to something that leaves them with, I belong here. So one of the things I always share is, and I shared this at Palooza, which is, I'm not the only Black person at Lime Life, but I'm the only Black person in my role at Lime Life. So, you know, I work obviously on our corporate home office side. The level of forward facing that I am is significant. So even though there's one other Black person that works with me, she's in the background, right? She's on our kind of operation side. I am the forward-facing entity of our company, and I am often the only Black person in the space, in the room, on the line, whatever. And none of that ever bothers me because I've never, ever experienced that I didn't belong. I never have the experience. Not only do I belong, I am thought of, I am acknowledged, I am a demand to be heard from. whether it's by my CEO or by my director, it's like, Dawn, we need your voice, right? And that says more about the belonging than if I saw 100 more Black women in the room with me. So belonging is about the experience one has that, oh, I am included here, which could be the same for each and every one of you as a beauty guide. I experience myself as belonging here. I experience myself as welcome. I experience myself as, wow, I'm seen, I'm heard, I'm acknowledged. That's what belonging speaks to. And that's what we go to work on all the time here at Lime Life when we talk about diversity. So for those folks who are going to be listening to this later and you're like, well, now what? Well, now what? Now is when you start having the kind of conversations with people where you go, I don't know what the freak I'm doing, but I know that I am committed to having a diverse company such that when people look in the direction of our company, they see women who look their age, or they see women of different ethnicities or backgrounds or genders even, right? They're the experience of, wow, what a diverse and wonderful place to belong to. So.
Amen. Preach, Dawn.
So I'm just checking it out to see if there's any questions, and I want to answer anything for folks. Oh, thank you. Well, listen, I gotta be straight. Can't let me see. I'm just checking it out. I'm new and have enjoyed you so much. Oh, Donna, I'm so glad. Lori, now that's yes. Okay, yeah. Doesn't mean I'm helping everyone have the feeling of I think we're pretty unique. Personally, I think we're pretty unique in that. And that doesn't mean that, you see all day women of color, but I know that, and Jenny could chime in, the experience of, if you experience being seen or belonging, or that your voice is heard. I think I will say this, I think it's pretty unique, the amount of input that the company asks of its field. Like, several of the people here are on what we call the in partnership calls, and the level of input that's asked of, of folks is pretty significant. When I talk to other people who belong to other direct sales company, they're like, nobody ever asked us a doggone thing, I think it speaks volumes about the kind of company that you belong to, that's asking you what's next, what do you want, or what direction we should look. So it's really vital to just keep pushing the envelope in that way. But Jenny, I put you on the spot, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to just anything to chime in on.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Jenny Figueroa, and I feel that, I feel heard. I came to corporate, and I was just, every time they hear from me, I'm just asking for things in Spanish because I know that we have big community of ladies who would love to be here, but they do not speak English. So I'm always advocating for them. And I sent an email to Christine, and next thing you know, 3 weeks later, they were putting that website in Spanish, so which is amazing in the US. And that is like, I can see the growth. I can see that my voice matters.
Yeah.
My voice matters. And, I'm 50, and English is not my native language, is Spanish, and I feel I belong. I don't feel judged. I feel included and loved. This is such a great community where, it's just like a family. So I've grown a lot being here, from, you
Mhm.
know, just becoming more confident in who I am, and they pour so much into us, so much. So
Mhm.
I'm very happy to be part of the Limelight family, and have all my sisters here who are like, hey, Jenny. So thank you for welcoming me. And yeah,
Yeah, excellent. And I mean,
And
listen, no, sorry, Jenny, go ahead.
no, I was not going to say
no, I
anything.
was gonna say I just love the collaborativeness here. I mean, as an industry professional for 22 years, I have never seen anything like this community. I have never seen anything like this community. I mean, seriously, and I know Joni, a lot of us can all attest that we're all shaking our heads. It is collaborative over competition. It is so inclusive, and women of all ages and stages. I might not be of color, but I am approaching the last half of the
Yeah,
50.
yeah.
I love the fact that we're all women locking arms, women and men locking arms. I mean, who is to judge? I do believe that nice people find each other, and that is where we're at.
Yeah. Yeah, and the one thing I could say, one of the things that I candidly, I'll tell you that we deal with in the with the advisory, we, like, how can we get more people to look in this direction? How can we get more people? When I say more people, I just mean more people of color to say yes. And where that goes to work is, so now this is kind of like my call to action, okay? So part of the call to action has two parts. The first part is, if you're a woman of color, then your call to action is to be in conversation with other women of color, pointing them in this direction. Like, and you got a lot under your belt. Like, if ever there was an arsenal or whatever, like, you got your tool belt and all your supplies, you got the tool belt called, the quality of the product. You got the tool belt called, pigmentation, the pigment, the color. You got the tool called, the quality ingredients, Leaping Bunny certified, free of harsh chemicals, whatever. Like, you've got an arsenal of things under your belt to be able to share really powerfully and authentically about why here, right? That's one part. Then the other part is, so the one thing I keep harping on a lot is, when I give calls to action among our women of color, I squeeze a lot of juice out of our beauty guides of color. Like, I might ask Jenny to do 10 things in any given couple of months. I'd be like, Jenny, I need you to do this. Jenny, I need you to do that. And that's the same across the board. I squeeze a lot of juice out of them. But I say that because there's more y'all, but you got to get in the game. So part of what there is to deal with, and this is not just for women of color, this is for all of y'all. If you really committed to a company that's diverse, then you got to put your butt on the line for something. I don't have time. Don't call me about, I want to be a better person. I don't care about you wanting to be better. I care about getting more women of color in this company so that the landscape of beauty is forever altered. I care about that. I'm not here to work through your issue about if you comfortable talking to Black or brown people. I'm not here to work that out with you. What I'm here to work out is, if you are committed to creating a diverse company and you're wanting to have the conversation, you're not powerful in it, talk to me. I'm going to get you powerful around having that conversation. The other thing is, one of the things that we're powerfully at work on in the advisory is creating what I call trust events. So while it sounds like a good idea to have women of color shine on as beauty guides, culturally, one of the things I know, and Jenny and I and the team, we've talked about this, it's about creating trust, enough trust in the product and what you have for people to eventually say yes. So what we go to work on on the Rise is creating the kind of events where we let people just come check us out. I don't need you to be a beauty guide today. In fact, I don't want you to say yes today. I want you to come check us out. I want you to see what we're about. I want you to see the quality of the product. I want you to see what you like about it. And then I want you to make an informed decision, because once that person does, they are in it to win it. And so that's where, where everybody comes in. You want to have a powerful conversation? I could guide you. You want to know how to bridge that gap? I can talk with you about that. But that's kind of like my call to action. Like, you really want to do that? I've given you some language around that. If you want more language, I got more language, but you got to get to work. I saw your hand up, Ann. Go ahead. You can unmute yourself, Ann, I think. Yep.
It was actually a little bit of a mistake with the finger there, so I didn't really. However, I'm sitting here trying to contain and not say anything, because I'm just like, yes. I come from a large corporate financial institution, very, very large and big on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So hearing that, and then knowing that I've only just started here with the company, it's very invigorating, and I really like it. And I come from a diverse background and diverse upbringing in my neighborhood and everything. So I find it interesting. So I really like it. Thank you.
Good. No, thank you. Excellent. Yeah, I'm just checking out the chat, making sure I don't miss anything.
Dawn, I tell you what, we appreciate your time so much. It is late on the East Coast.
I know.
And I appreciate your time so very much. I know that this video, this recording will be shared as well with many, many women. And I hope that we make a huge impact. That's my goal.
Yeah, and we will. And by the way, I do have a very open door policy. Please feel free you can email me directly, dawn@limelifebyalcone.com. Many people Facebook message me. I do respond to Facebook Messenger. I'm not going to coach you over Facebook Messenger, but I will respond. Some people hit me up in the house of Lime Life, But if you really want to reach me, your best bet is like either Facebook Messenger or just send me an email directly. I will respond if you got questions or you're like, but how do I make this happen? I'm here for it all. I'm here for everything. I'm just here. I'm here for it. So let me know. This has been amazing. I'm so glad I got to be with y'all. Thank you all for being here on a 10 minutes to 10. I'm done. Everybody go to bed.
Thank you.
Yes, my pleasure. Anytime.
Have a good evening, guys. Thanks for being on so late.
Good night, everybody.